This presentation will highlight the UNEP Cartegena Convention Secretariat's efforts to engage and build the capacity of local communities through the Trash-Free Waters Initiative. This was implemented in both Jamaica and Panama as initial pilot countries. This presentation will also be jointly done by myself, Sancha Foreman, Program Management Assistant at the Pollution Subprogram at the Secretariat, as well as Ankur Deb, former intern and current consultant working with the SPA Biodiversity Subprograms. So we're off to a journey through the Caribbean Sea. More than 700 islands and coastal countries share the riches of the Caribbean Sea. It is the most tourism-dependent region. But this critical resource and the millions who depend on it face a major and fast-growing threat: marine litter. In 2015 alone, the population of the region generated 79 million tons of solid waste. From this, 1.3 million tons of plastic entered our coastal waters. According to our most recent statistics in 2018, Latin America and the Caribbean generated 145,000 tons of waste per day. This is food for thought, and it demonstrates the trends on waste and the increase in plastic of marine litter. Here we will look at the global and regional solutions to tackle the issue of marine litter. The Cartegena Convention Secretariat remains committed to support the Sustainable Development Goals on clean water and sanitation, building sustainable cities and communities, tackling climate change, and preserving life below water. A number of regional projects and initiatives have been implemented by governments of the wider Caribbean region to improve solid waste management, with almost 10 countries of the region joining the Clean Seas campaign launched by UNEP in 2017. A regional Clean Seas campaign was also launched by the Caribbean node of the Global Partnership for Marine Litter, and this was launched in 5 countries initially. Countries continue to adopt blue flag standards for water quality and environmental management. More recently, over 20 governments have even taken steps to ban the use, distribution, and importation of single-use plastics and styrofoam. Here we have the Caribbean node of the Global Partnership on Marine Litter, established in 2016 as a partnership between the Gulf and Caribbean Fisheries Institute and UNEP CEP, which has facilitated several projects for improving marine litter management. It provides leadership, information, and mobilizes resources to reduce marine litter in the Caribbean Sea. We're going to move on to national and community actions. Here we have our interactive map, which shows the status of countries implementing the bans on single-use plastics and styrofoam. Countries of the region are able to monitor efforts to comply with the protocol on land-based sources of pollution as it relates to national policies, the regulatory measures, and be better able to elaborate the effectiveness of some of these policies. Here we have the Trash-Free Waters Initiative for the Caribbean, which is really a regional partnership involving UNEP, Regional Office for Latin America and the Caribbean in Panama, related governmental agencies and non-governmental agencies such as SANDALS Foundation in Jamaica, as well as the National Association for the Conservation of Nature, called ANCON in Panama. And this was funded by the United States Environmental Protection Agency. So the photos include the one to the left, which includes the launch in Jamaica, as well as the launch in the community Whitehouse and Bluefields community in Westmoreland, and at the top, the training of students in Panama. So this slide highlights the Whitehouse and Bluefields solid waste reduction project pilot in Jamaica. SANDALS Foundation, of course, was the implementing agency for the pilot project, and it coordinated activities in the communities of Bluefields and Whitehouse. This helped to protect the 2 marine areas from solid waste pollution and also facilitate a stakeholder-based collaborative approach to effectively manage the waste. All right, so the project activities in Jamaica, the program basically included waste separation involving recycling and composting, garbage bin distribution, as well as public education and awareness, series of social surveys on land and underwater to basically track the progress of the project and to increase communities' awareness and participation regarding solid waste management issues, as well as livelihood training. Among the highlights of the project was the waste collection and separation. The program was rolled out in 40 locations, primarily in Whitehouse and Bluefields, which provided more than 200 bins for the separation of plastic bottles, compost, and regular solid waste. Over 4,500 pounds of plastic bottles were collected for recycling, and the 2,500 pounds of compost collected has produced approximately 500 pounds of mature compost, which was provided to a community farmer. Another component of the project was survey. A series of surveys were used to assess the education and awareness on proper garbage disposal and separation among children and adults. These were done on a quarterly basis, with a first survey administered to establish a baseline of social behavior and perception. Social surveys were conducted every 3 months to determine behavioral changes. It is important to note that in assessing the knowledge, attitudes, and behaviors of the adult population, most persons identified as personally responsible for solid waste management. In addition, the practice of burning waste was seen to be as a response to infrequent and irregular garbage pickup, with 20% agreeing and 8% believing it was actually the correct way. So overall, respondents had a strong understanding of solid waste and the consequences of improper garbage disposal. As it relates to surveying the younger minds, these questionnaires were tailored with the use of colorful pictures, multiple choice, and circling, right? It was found that 90% of students were able to learn good disposal practices in school, and 78 to 88% of students believe the power of reuse and recycling when compared with the knowledge before and after the public education. The insight gained from the land, underwater, and beach surveys focused primarily on the content of waste found. Collectively, plastic bottles, caps, and grocery bags were the most common items found at survey sites on land. Underwater, plastic beverage bottles, items followed by foam pieces and plastic utensils were seen as the most prevalent item, of course, compared with Bluefields community. So overall, with such a high level of plastic pollution, the negative environmental effects are likely to be significant. However, with the plastic recycling and continued education, the outlook of pollution in the area appears positive. At the end of the Whitehouse and Bluefields solid waste reduction project in Jamaica, outreach efforts impacted approximately 2,400 students and over 1,045 adults in the area. This involved school visits, parent-teachers association meetings, community walks, church services, etc. It also included different social media campaigns across all platforms, but the survey results proved that word of mouth was really the most common means of reach in the community. This particular poem, written by Jordan Williams, was part of the public education and outreach activities to encourage the understanding of improper waste disposal and the effects of our actions on our coastal species. It highlights separating waste between plastics and compost. Look around and see the trees. Watch the fish swim in the seas. Things won't look this clean and new if polluting is all we do. Now I will end here. My colleague Ankur Deb will join in to speak further about the pilot project in Panama.
Under the Trash-Free Waters Initiative, Panama was the second pilot country. Here, UN Environment Program, located in Panama City, along with the implementing partner, National Association for the Conservation of Nature, referred to as ANCON, a non-profit organization, cooperated with the help from the government entity ANAM on the waste interception program at the Juan Diaz River, accompanied by an environmental education program to schools, businesses, and the general public in that district. The implementation of this project also supported Panama in meeting its obligations under the Land-Based Sources or the LBS Protocol to the Cartegena Convention. To start off the program, social media campaigns were conducted by ANCON. They were published in the local native language of Spanish, Here on the left hand side, the first poster tries to instill a recycling attitude in the people with a list of recyclable materials like paper, carton, Tetra Pak, etc. The middle poster here invites people to be a community volunteer to take care of the Juan Diaz River. And finally, on the right hand side, the poster talks about the actions taken locally to reduce marine litter, like installation of a retaining barrier in the Juan Diaz River and the start of the project, integral management of solid waste on the island of Taboga. Environmental problems in the Juan Diaz lower watershed is persistent, especially in related to the management of solid waste. Training sessions on the management of litter, impacts on public and ecosystem health, and options to improve the current waste management situation is of utmost necessity. So capacity building in schools from grade 9 to 12 were undertaken. These students belong to 4 different educational institutions. Many of the students and some teachers did not have any prior knowledge about solid waste management. To enhance that, theoretical practical lessons took place. A total of 444 students benefited from this program. Furthermore, capacity building was conducted on commercial facilities as well. This facilitated the maximum reach and impact among people. Presentations were given about water, the 3 Rs, that is reduce, reuse and recycle, and the Juan Diaz project. A recycling fair was also organized in Los Pueblos shopping center, where community members of Juan Diaz were taught how to separate their materials and the 3 Rs. 10 volunteers were also trained on the 3 Rs and the trap project sensibilization in Juan Diaz. They in turn spread the learnings to help people understand the importance of proper waste management, how to separate their materials, and explain what the trap project is. Juan Diaz is one of the centers of manufacturing in Panama, including food processing, wood products, paper, textiles, and other products, which leads to soil and groundwater pollution. A group of students from Ernesto T. Lefebvre Institution were taken to an excursion trip in Juan Diaz River with a lab backpack kit where they assessed the water quality by testing the quantity of phosphate, nitrate, electrical conductivity, and more. So now my colleague Sancha Foreman will continue to explain the engagement relating to the circular economy approach.
Essentially, the 2 pilot projects engage local communities in adopting sound waste management principles. In charting the course towards a circular economy approach, the pilots, especially the projects in Jamaica, was introduced to this type of thinking to change the community's thought process from the take, make waste production and consumption to adapt to the climate change challenges that's really facing the world today. Okay, so here we have the livelihood training and upcycling. Approximately 21 community members were able to benefit from this training across the Bluefields and Whitehouse communities in Jamaica. They were taught basically how to make garbage bins from plastic bottles and jewelry from bottle corks, paper, and even lionfish. So here we have a slide which shows members of the community quite enthusiastic about the principles learned, transforming trash into treasure with the knowledge gained from the upcycling and training workshops. We have the jewelry making, see some of the products here, from bottle corks, paper bead bracelets, as well as the plastic, the garbage bins made from plastic bottles. So the pilot project enabled a greater opportunity to inspire and empower the community with the circular economy insight, with the business opportunities to ensure products and materials remain in the value chain for a longer period of time. Additionally, the compost trainings, which were conducted by the National Environmental Protection Agency in Jamaica, was viewed to be beneficial to the community and employed the reuse principles to avoid waste and ensure material is viewed as a resource. A 10-minute video was also produced by the pilot in Jamaica, which can be viewed as time allows on the UNEP CEP YouTube channel. Here we will go into the lessons learned. We found that community participation and the emergence of community leaders were definitely an essential step to the behavior change process. Secondly, public-private partnership was viewed to improve waste management. Third, with implementation, everything really goes hand in hand. The community analysis, visibility of the project team, we saw that with the community walks in Jamaica as well as the door-to-door visits in Panama, were also very important to the successful results. And also the separation of waste at the source, that is the point of disposal, was a success factor for these projects. Other takeaways of the projects raised by the communities and implementing agencies were that recycling collections in the communities could improve if jobs were created for these sectors, just similar to street cleaning. Secondly, a similar collection system is necessary for compost material. An appropriate size compost facility was needed to accommodate the material and the production. Thirdly, as it relates to the surveying process, shorter surveys definitely encourage greater participation. And lastly, another lesson was that livelihood trainings, to ensure that livelihood trainings were best suited for the community and its demographics, whether a tourist district, farming community, urban, or even a fishing village. Special thanks to the United States Environmental Protection Agency for the financial support and technical guidance provided to catalyze local communities and governments in the wider Caribbean region to really partner together to develop marine litter policies and projects that really reduce the amount of trash entering the Caribbean Sea. As we compile the best practices based on the experiences and the lessons learned from both projects, this will definitely help to identify opportunities for replication and upscaling both in these countries and the rest of the Caribbean. Thank you.